Well, I did have a question that would have been that I think would be great because talking about the slogan "Stop Anti-Hate," "Stop Asian Hate" versus Black Lives Matter. In America and Canada, they were quickly to adopt motions to be like, yes, stop Asian hate. But when it became Black Lives Matter, politicians would like stay
Step
away from
back,
it, push
yeah.
away from it, distance themselves from it. And it's kind of that idea of that stop Asian hate is just as much as it is very important to stop Asian racism and xenophobia in any way that it comes. It's almost that Black Lives Matter challenges the status quo and asking and demanding that police and the apparatus of police systems and white supremacy in all of its forms are dismantled, not rather than, stop um stop saying the N-word. It's like more than that, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I'm wondering if I'm onto something or I'm just saying nonsense.
Yeah, I think and I think a lot of that has to do with the structure of politics in Canada, but I can't speak as much to the American context, but very much the understanding that Asian communities ultimately will be good model minorities. So they're going to tell you when people have been racist in individualized ways, right? They're going to tell you, oh, we're subject to attacks and we need people to do something about this. But then I think there is a belief, and I think mainstream political culture has led to this, right? That somehow Asians will eventually assimilate. They'll know when to be quiet. They'll know when it's time not to structure because they'll want to make life better for their kids, right? And this is a kind of line for, and so that they're and this again is about creating those wedges between different groups of people. So some are seen as well behaved, and so you can support them to the point of, please don't say racist things. I also have friends who are Asian. They feel bad when you do this. This is not good. But that we're not supposed to talk structurally and systemically. And I think also in Canada, the current moment says, or the government would like to tell us that they've addressed it. They've apologized for the Japanese internment. They've, apologized for the head tax. They've given reparations. They've given some funding for different programs and education, all of which is way too limited and never really went far enough, right? And so, but they want to say, okay, we've done that work. And now we're all moving on together. And I think what we saw, and the conversations that I've been, really privileged to be part of across the country around anti-Asian hate from the very beginning have articulated that we can't talk about this separate from anti-Black racism in Canada or anti-Indigenous racism, and that actually they're intertwined, that these are different racisms, but they come to be in relation to each other. And that if we don't understand that, if we don't assess the way that our communities also might perpetuate anti-Black or anti-Indigenous racism, the way that we have both been subject to racism, but also benefit and privilege or, gain privilege from others, if we don't do that work, then then it's actually part of the larger systemic structures. And I think, what was most powerful at some of the conferences and events I've been at is that younger groups have no patience for this language of anti-Asian racism is something else. And most people are, that I'm hearing in a stronger way than I've ever heard before, that we cannot allow others to place ourselves where we start making hierarchies of racism. Which racism was, who should we tackle first? Who's is the moment? Now, anti-Semitism, it's anti-Asian racism, Islamic, that we actually have to address them all at the same time. And if we don't, that's the problem. And I think that's what's really powerful and exciting about this moment. And I think it reflects on sport as well, because, we've talked a little bit about how some people are also seen as, these are the model bodies, people, families that we want to put forward. And we have to kind of say, why would we say, what happens when we say that? Because the flip side is that some are not models. And so who are we suggesting are not models then? And usually, we know what that means. Lower socioeconomic, don't really fit the box as well. Certainly, East Asians might be model bodies, South Asians might not be, Black bodies might not be, all of these ways. And so, yeah, but I think you're totally onto something, because there is a way that the narratives can split. And I think the real moment of resistance and see where that takes us.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, using that model minority myth as a wedge to create more racial divide,
Yeah.
instead of us who are racialized creating more hegemony and using our own collective trauma experience successes to attack and change the world for better. And you just answered. I was going to ask, how do we do that and how do we do it collectively? And you just answered that. So wonderful. FSDIA's Conversations in Color is recorded and edited in Toronto and Pickering, Ontario, Canada, on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga of Scugog, Wendat, Huron-Wendat, and the Mississauga of the Credit.
Thank you so much for tuning into FSDIA's Conversations in Color. Please subscribe to our channel. Find us on the gram at Figure Skating DIA, on Facebook at the Figure Skating Diversity and Inclusion Alliance, and our website at fsdia.org. And remember to color your ice.